skin with your long brown hair. Been running around town all day, but you know I'm there. What you want, what you need, what you wanna know. What you wanna know, what you wanna know. Can't stand out in the rain and argue all day. Come on, pretty baby, just hop in the wheel. Don't care if the car gets wet, just hold my hand. Wait, what you wanna know? What you wanna know? She said, do you trust me? Do you love me? Do you want me? Do you got me? I'm sorry, I've been breaking down. I just don't trust no, I don't trust no one.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we are doing a mod that I've been thinking about doing for a very long time. It is the ventilation mod X JSAUX Backplate. If you're a big fan of the channel, you've gone back to the beginning when we started tinkering with the Steam Deck, you knew the first thing I ever did was cut a hole in the back of a Steam Deck. So we got a delta of 5 across the board in our previous testing with just cutting this ventilation out. Poppy here. If you like this type of content, go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you have an idea for an upcoming video, leave them in the comments below. And after that, don't forget to hit the bell so you get notified when that video comes out. And if you really love the channel and you want to help us grow, go ahead and visit us at www.diypoppy.net. Pick up a t-shirt. And while you're there, go ahead and download one of our free STL files so you can do the Poppy mods yourself. A lot of concerns in that video, and especially a short that I posted, was that the fact that since we have this ventilation hole now, air is less likely to go through its intended ventilation hole. And you are correct in that. Everyone is 100% correct in that. But after further testing, I've found out that it is not as much of a concern as people thought it would, especially if you did the thermal pad mod together. So let me explain what the thermal pad mod is first. So you have aluminum heat shield, and below that it's attached to the SoC, including the cooler for the APU, things like that. All we did in the thermal pad mod was right below here, and I'll put a picture on the screen. We just added thermal pads to the heat pipe, so that we could tie the two together, meaning we can pull more heat from the heat shield to the heat pipe. So since the heat pipe is getting cooled a lot quicker because this ventilation mic, means the whole aluminum heat shield stays a lot nicer temperature overall. With that nicer temperature or cooler temperature, it is important because we have some very important things underneath this ventilation hole. It's your IC controller, which is right around here. Your SSDs here, and you have some VRMs and MOSFETs right on the top of that. And the intended idea was air gets sucked in through here, pulled into the fan, but as it gets pulled in, it cools down the heat shield where the IC, SSD, and the VRM and MOSFETs are all connected to, and it will help keep them nice and safe. So I did my own thermal probe testing, and everything is within margin. We are 75 as the highest point while charging from 5% with the thermal pad mod, and this ventilation fan, and the MOSFETs and VRMs were about 73. And keep in mind, those chips are rated for about 105 to 110 C. So that's all within safe margins. So in my opinion, which is mine, and this is my Steam Deck, I think it's completely safe. And anyone else that would think otherwise, you know, that's fair enough. You know, your concerns are real. But with my testing, I was able to find that everything seems to be running well within safe margins. So I have no concerns of destroying any of those chips. So, but if, you know, for those a fan of heart, I get it. This is an expensive device. I get it. All right, so let's get into the video. So we're here in Miles Morales. We're in the same scene. What we're going to do first is we're going to clog up this vent, and then we are going to see kind of stock performance of this thing. All right, we're pretty much pegged there at 77, 78 on the CPU. Fan is at 4900. I'm going to take the dB from right where I'm standing, which is about a foot and a half away. 35 dB. All right, we're gonna do a quick hotspot. Just pick this bottom part right here, 55C. All right, so now we're just gonna unplug the ventilation mod. Technically, this is all stock. It doesn't matter that we have a heatsink, an aluminum heat shield. There's complete heat soak. It does kind of cool it a little bit, but that's fine. We're talking about maybe a degree because of the fins, air going through them and whatnot. But let's go ahead and we'll remove our vent port and we'll flip it back over. Automatically out of the gate, fan speed drops 70 and 72. Wow, 3,700 RPM. That is minus, what is that? Minus 1,200. That's exactly what we had before. Okay, so next what we're going to do, so at stock, our fan was at 4,900 RPM. What we're going to do next, before we kick on our cooler, we're going to go ahead and go to Fantastic. We're going to go do a custom fan curve, and we're going to ramp it up to right about that 5,000 RPM. So what we did is we locked our fan speed to 5,000 RPM, and our original stock testing, we had 4,900 RPM. It's really hard to get 4,900 on this interface, but we're locked, and now we're gonna see how well it will cool with that same fan curve. So right now we're at a 10 degree delta out of the gate. Let's call it 50. Hotspot has dropped another 3 degrees. Now we're gonna give it the beans. So we're at a 14 degree delta right now so far. So we're in the JSAUX territory already without buying a JSAUX cooler. Minus 16. Oh my god. All right, guys, that's pretty insane that we got a minus 16 delta on here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put it back to stock. Actually, no, what we need to do is we need to heat it back up. We're back in the stock settings. We heated up our Steam Deck. Now we're gonna go ahead and throw on our cooler and see how well it does. So the cooler is gonna be, we're gonna do 2 tests with the cooler because I don't have the fan controller on here. I don't think there's any point of having the fan controller in here. This is a very quiet fan. We should just give it the beans. All right, so before we plug this bad boy in, well, let's talk about the fan. It's a 4,500 RPM Noctua fan. It's fairly cheap, $15 on Amazon. And we have it on a cheap, like $1 heatsink here in the back. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna plop it on and see what kind of temps we get. All right. So what we have here is now we have our external fan running on our heatsink that's tied to our aluminum backplate from JSAUX, and we're getting some really ridiculous 29 degrees on the hotspot. Ridiculous. Oh wait. We gotta plug her back in before we take our final reading. See, after plugging it back in, our hotspot jumped to 36. So this shows you how much juice is going through that IC chip. That's why it's very important to do the thermal pad mod if you're cutting a hole in the back of your Steam Deck. Oh my gosh. So what we have now is our fan speed is set at 5,000 RPM. We have our Noctua fan still full tilt. It's been full tilt the whole time. And we are getting some ridiculous cooling performance. 28 degree hotspot. It's pretty wild. So next we're gonna hit 7,000 RPM. Let's go. All right, it's holding 56. It's holding 56. Guys, what great fun. Oh. Boy, was my original impressions right. This is the greatest cooling mod by far, yet super cheap, really inexpensive. Forget that JSAUX cooler. The JSAUX Backplate is the perfect platform to do our fan mod on. It is amazing. And yes, we're doing the Bob Barker thing. My old / new mic, I mean, the mic I was using prior to this kept distorting. I don't know what's wrong with it. It was working great for a while, and now it's not working well at all. So we're going to do the Bob Barker thing, who is not dead, and he is a prison owner, one of the largest, just like Michael Jordan, but he is still the GOAT when it comes to game show hosting. So, you know, give credit where it's due. But let's get into the download. So in a consistent room temperature of 16.5, our stock Steam Deck, remember our stock Steam Deck has the thermal pad mod on and has a JSAUX backplate on. So it's not stock. All right. It was at a room temp of 16.5. We got a 7778 fan speed of 4,900 RPM, and from a foot and a half away, we got a dB of 35, and the hotspot, which we just aimed for like the dead spinner spot right here. We got a hotspot of 55C. Very, very good overall. That's kind of about what we got on other tests, whether it was with the stock backplate or not. So good. So with the fan mod, so meaning we uncovered this ventilation slot here, we got a delta of 6 across the board, and the same room temp of 16.5. We got a 71 and a 72 on the CPU, and we had a whopping fan speed drop of 1200 RPM. It was pretty nice. But with that 1200 RPM, and we still had a dB of 34. Because we do have an opening now, the fan is slightly noisier than it would be with it closed. But with the extra dB, we do get a reduction of 6 degrees on the CPU and the GPU. Hotspot was 53C, so we did drop 2 degrees on our hotspot. Next, we did the fan mod with a set RPM of 5,000 using the fantastic plugin. We got in the same room temp, 16.5, we got a 67, 68, a delta of 10. All right, the dB increased by 3 from stock to 38, and our hotspot was 50. So, meaning if you had a stock Steam Deck and you did the thermal pad mod and you cut a hole in the back, you would get a -10. -10. You don't even need the JSAUX backplate, you would get a -10 if you set the fan speed at 5,000 RPM in a room temp of 16.5. Then we turned things up a notch. We turned it up. We got set the fan speed to 7K, 7,000 RPMs on the fan with our fan mod in the same room temp of 16.5. We got a 61 and a 62, a delta of 16. With that -16, we are in the same territory of the JSAUX cooler. This bad boy, this $50 bad boy, and that's with the mod case. We're in that territory, and all we did was cut a hole in the back of our Steam Deck, download the plugin, and we got a 16 delta, 61, 62 in the CPU. Fan speed, obviously, 7,000 RPM. dB was 45. Pretty loud, but if you can handle that, you got earphones, then God bless. But if you want that performance, it's the same loudness. If actually the JSAUX cooler is louder. And then our hotspot was a 42, so we dropped 13 degrees from our stock settings on our hotspot. Then after that, we finally turned on our nocturnal fan. Remember, this is the silent nocturnal fan. It is a 40 millimeter by 10 millimeter fan. Its max RPM is 4,500 RPM, which we had it pegged on, and it is pushing air into a very cheap 40 by 10 millimeter heatsink. If you got a bigger heatsink, it would cool a lot better, but you know, this is something cheap on Amazon. Altogether, it'd probably cost you $16, $17 if you bought it on Amazon, all of them. Really cheap stuff, really, really cheap stuff. I remember the JSAUX backplate, I believe, is $29.99, but you do get buttons, which we should probably put on here. So with that on, and our fan mod, meaning the ventilation mod here, we got in the same room temperature of 16.5. We got a 64 and 65 with a fan speed of 2,900 RPM. So that's a delta of 13. Delta of 13. Very, very good cooling capabilities. We also had a dB of 38, which is an increase of 3 dB from stock, which makes sense. The fan is outside of the Steam Deck now. And our hotspot was a very, very cool 36 degrees. So it's a 19 degree delta from stock. Then we went ahead and set the fan speed to 5,000 RPMs. at the same room temp of 16.5, we got a delta of 18, minus 18. We got a delta of minus 18 at 59 and 60 on the CPU with a fan speed at 5,000 RPM. Remember, locked it at 5,000 RPM. Then we got a dB of 38.5, so we increased the dB by 5.5 from 5,000 RPM. But our hotspot was ridiculous. It was at 28. We have dropped the hotspot to a 28. Cool stuff, guys. All right, and then at the very least, we set the fan curve to 7,000 RPM. We maxed it out. We gave it the beans, and we got the greatest results ever. We got a minus 22 at a 55 and a 56 on the CPU. It is crazy. The dB was very loud, though. It was 44 dB, very audible, extremely audible, very noisy. You'll need headphones for sure. And the hotspot was a ice cold 19 degrees. All right, so the room temp was 16.5. The backplate, this hotspot right here, was almost room temperature. That's how cold it was getting. It was getting very cold. So, guys, in closing, if you have a JSAUX backplate, you are leaving so much performance on the table. The normal JSAUX backplate with the thermal pad mod, with these fans and all this stuff, you'll get up to a minus 8 delta. Kind of depends on your hardware that you're using to cool it, but a minus 8 delta was the best results I could get with just the cooler on the JSAUX backplate without our fan mod here. Minus 8, which is still very, very good. But you could get a freaking minus 22 if you just cut a hole in the back of that backplate. It is ridiculous. And when it comes to thinking about the IC controller or the VRM or MOSFET, that freaking heat shield is so much cooler because of the combination of the fan mod and the external cooler. You shouldn't worry about it. Remember, we were charging it the whole time, and the hotspot where it's closest to where the IC and the VRM and MOSFETs are got so cold it was almost room temperature. All right, and its hottest temperature combined was 42. And remember, this thing is rated for 105 to 110 degrees. I mean, I think the IC control is 105 and then everything else is 110 degrees. You are less than half of its margin. And let's just assume that the transfer of heat from the IC chip to the heat shield isn't 1-to-1. Let's say it's 20 degrees warmer than what it's transferring. So let's go at 25. You're still within margin. Hottest temperature, you're still only doing 75C on the IC or the VRM MOSFETs, which is 30 degrees under its max temperature. Very, very, very safe operating temperatures. Guys, if you are afraid of this, stop being so afraid. You got to do your testing. Do your due diligence. I will say this, but first, mod at your own risk. This is safe, in my opinion, for your IC controller and MOSFET if you do everything correctly. But other than that, guys, I'm pretty happy about this, and I feel like this is a big W. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really, really appreciate it. Finally did this mod. This is the end all be all. Everyone should be doing a JSAUX backplate fan mod conversion. It is the best by far. Don't buy the cooler. Don't buy any other external project. Don't buy the Benza cap. Don't buy anything else. When all you really need is to cut a hole in your backplate, and if you have a JSAUX backplate, cut a hole in that too. It is impeccable cooling performance. But if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe if you loved it, and please hit that ding notification so you don't miss any of these other videos that are going to coming up, because we are going to overclock the shit out of the Steam Deck now, because we have so much overhead when it comes to cooling. So hit that notification so you don't miss that video. And guys, if you really want to help out the channel, go ahead and visit us at DIYpoppy.net. Pick up a t-shirt. I promise you're gonna love it. And also, you can go to the website, you can download the STL file for the DIY Poppy shroud. And if you do not have your own 3D printer, I'm going to go ahead and start selling these on the website. I do the olive green or the black, solid black, and it will come with 5mm thermal pad, enough to cover up the heat pipe, and a template of where you're going to be cutting out the ventilation hole for your fan mod. So check that out. It'll be on the website as soon as this video airs. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one.